So in this demo, we would be working on deployment of HTTP 2.3 with Ambari 2.0 on a cloud VM. So the steps would be almost similar. We need to have chk config ntpd on first, and then we need to stop the IP tables. And in the next step, what you can do is basically we can stop the IP tables stop, and after that we can start the NTPD service here. So what is the latest thing about HTTP 2.3? HTTP 2.3 just introduced, it has been announced this week by Hortonworks, and it has got several new features as being rumbled up compared to earlier versions of HTTP 2.2. One of the best thing is that it has got several major latest upgrades in Ambari. In terms of Ambari views, stacks, etc. It has got update on running. It has got the basic facility of executing Apache Solar, the search engine, which we now able to run on Yearn. It has got the capability of using Apache Atlas, which is a brand new feature and brand new component has been came up. And also with these versions of HTTP 2.3, we have got pretty much introductions to work with Apache Falcon, which is basically a SQL interface on Hadoop. And also we have got a lot of major upgrades, and all of the latest features has been introduced for Apache Spark. In terms of ML library, in terms of graphics engine, in terms of Spark SQL, etc. So let's go through with the steps. And once we have done all the prep in the VM, so this is a cloud-based Linux VM, and it's a CentOS image. And in this VM, it's going to be a single node cluster of HTTP image, where basically we have been using here memory settings. It's here in this VM we are having 32 gigs memory, and the CPU is 14 core CPU we have been using for this demo. And after that, once we have set up all of this, if we are making a multi-node cluster or clustering distributed mode clusters, so next step we need to prepare all serve node images, all the worker nodes images basically. But since we are just making it a single node, so we can just move out directly, we can just throw it directly into the passwordless SSH configuration in the next step. So to have the private key, for instance, so let's just go ahead and exit. And so what you can do is basically, let me pop up with any of my Linux instance. All right, so let's create the SSH, the passwordless SSH authentication. So what you need to do for this, I have already the PM key with me in this Linux VM. So I need to configure it for the remote cloud VM. in order to configure the passwordless SSH authentication for the HTTP VM. So what I need to do, I have utilized basically these keys during the VM provisioning. All right, so the key has been generated. Now I should be able to connect it to the VM. So next we need to move the private key which we have just generated to the .ssh folder, and we need to rename it to the id_rsa. So what you can do right now, we can just repeat the same steps whatever we have just configured few minutes back, and also can just top the IP tables. Once we stop it, next step we can start the NTPD services, and if we right now check in the VM, you'll be able to see that the key has been generated. So next step, if we just try to make the ssh.ssh directory, it would be showing that it's already exist. So what you need to do is basically we need to move this key to .ssh/id_rsa folder. And once we did that, once we do this, all of the steps, the next step is basically to continue with the Ambari installation and provisioning. So we need to check basically the Ambari repo of Ambari 2.0, and so it's pretty much same step. And if you are provisioning HTTP 2.3 in a distributed cluster, so after this step you need to provision for this external worker nodes. So you need to just go out and step out. Suppose you have provisioning, thinking for provisioning hundreds of nodes, or around 10 to 15 nodes. So you need to just select now more nodes at this point of time. Suppose you are just at this point of time you are thinking to select 16 more nodes. So where within which 13 nodes would be dedicated for management demands and 4 nodes would be dedicated to the data nodes itself. So you can just go ahead with the steps, and finally you can review and launch at this point of time. But since for this demo, the clustering would be happen in a single node in a pseudo distributed mode, so ensure that you have the same keys being present with you, and so that you can just go ahead with a passwordless SSH to work between Ambari node and RST to start the new step of work. So that's all of this, and so we don't need to install the worker nodes at this point of time. So we need to customize the security groups to minimize the attacks of the surface area. and that's all. But since we don't need to do this for this demo, so we can directly go ahead and set up the Ambari. So we just need to go to bit to get the bits of HTTP and add it to the repo. So what you can do next is basically come as root, and inside root just take the Ambari repository. So for Ambari 2.0, we could be directly go ahead with the latest repository. So I'm taking this repo. And already I have also saved this repo. So I have also copied it directly within etc/yum repos.d. So if you just try to see, you'd be able to see that it's already copied within yum/repos.d. So there, Ambari should be there. So next, when you will refresh this repo, so what you need to do next is basically to type yum repo list. Once we do that, the next step would be basically to install the Ambari server. So in order to install the Ambari server, you need to write yum install Ambari-server. Or otherwise, alternatively, you can search from Google the Ambari repo list. Just agree to download the bits. So Ambari server bits would be installed. And once you do this, next you need to configure the bits. So you can just write Ambari server setup. So that's the next thing we need to do. All right, Ambari server has been installed. So next step, we need to go ahead and set up. So just accept all the default option for all prompts by pressing enter. So finally, we need to start the Ambari server. So make sure that when you are starting the Ambari server services, you have sufficient permission is being available. So make sure that you are doing this with root privileges. So in the next step, just start to set up the Ambari server. So what you can do, just open up a local browser. And here, just go ahead. Type the FQDN of the VM and giving the port number as 8080 to start the Ambari browser. So it could be 8080 would be the public DNS from your browser. So if everything is configured successfully, Ambari has been installed successfully, you should see the login page of Ambari. The default username and password should be admin and admin respectively. For the first time loading, it would take a bit of time, just 2 to 3 seconds. So that's the first. With Ambari 2.0, you'd be able to see in the beginning the admin view, the instances. So you'd get the options like either we can manage the users or groups, or we can deploy the views for Ambari views instances and grant the specific permissions. We can specify like whoever the specific users and groups based on the specific accessing permissions to Ambari. Like I can make a separate views and separate accessing permissions for administrators, specific to developers, specific to management. I can make that. So first I'm interested to launch a cluster. So just clicking on create a cluster. So that's the first step. And I can first name the cluster. So I'm just giving it HTTP new VM. Clicking on next. Here I just got the option as an advanced repository option. So I'm selecting HTTP 2.2 as a service tag option. Next, I need to import the SSH private key first. So let's go ahead and import that. Alright, so the server has been registered and it will just take a while to register the host for being checked for is there any potential issues or not, to check, and then it would allow us to continue for the installation of services. So you may get some warnings because for single node pseudo distributed mode, but just ignore that and continue. And with HTTP 2.2, you'd be able to see that all the latest tools with all the latest versions is being there for Hadoop ecosystem. Zookeeper, Falcon, Storm, Flume, Nox, Slider, Spark, Kafka, and Ambari matrices all would be there. You can click on next. If you want to take a look back, you can just take a look, and you may get a warning like Spark requires HTTP 2.2.2 or later. Attempting to install Spark to a HTTP 2.2 cluster will fail. So you can confirm whether you're using HTTP 2.2.2 or later packages. So you can continue with proceed, and once you continue with proceed options, you may get the options like for assigning the masters. Since we are working on a single node, so all of the master nodes would be installed in the same VM. And even the slave nodes like data node, node manager, region server, supervisor, Flume, and client, they would be also installed in the same node. In the next step, you need to come up with specify some customizations of services. And there, specifically, you need to give the password for some specific services. So from Hive, giving the passwords Once I give the passwords for Hive, I need to give the passwords for Uzi. Once I give the passwords for Uzi, I need to give the passwords for Knox Gateway. Once I give that, I can click on Next. I may get an options like some services are not configured properly. We recommend you to review and change the highlighted configuration value. And you may get some issues like not enough memory is being available for installation of Ambari matrices. So if you just want to cancel anytime, anyway, regarding Ambari matrices and all, so what you can do, you may go back and just stop to install Ambari matrices. But rest of everything would be fine. Because other way we can of course integrate the services later on as well. But we need to start the services carefully. If you are doing the services, if we are installing in a single node, make sure that you have at least 28 gigs or 32 gigs RAMs is being available for a single node configurations of HTTP 2.2. And finally, we can review the configuration before installation. Finally, click on Deploy to start deploying the VM. So here we have got HTTP has been installed successfully. If we click on Next, so you'll be able to see. So all the components has been successfully installed. So to take a bit while to load all of the components and to load the Ambari master page. And here we are able to see that all the components has been successfully installed and it's been running properly. Here we have got the Ambari dashboard, which has been successfully configured. And from the latest version of Ambari 2.0, we are able to see that there has been alert has been configured, like ops and alerts specification, which is being available on top of the Ambari portal and Ambari dashboard. We are able to see directly on heat maps and the config history, which is very new to Ambari 2.0. And here in admin section, we would be able to see the specific details about the Ambari stacks and the versions, like Hadoop ecosystem stacks and the various other ecosystems that's being present over there. And even services accounts also for each and every Hadoop services account and corresponds to their default user value. It's being present, and Kerberos security is being also enabled over there. And here we have just gone through the settings page, and if you want to manage Ambari, we can just directly go through and start the manage operation. Here I'm interested to go back to the main dashboard. Here goes my host details, and here goes the alerts. So right now, since the services just have been started, so I am able to see that all the services which has been installed all are in OK phases. And here goes the admin section. Now if I want to stop any services, or if I want to stop all the services, I just can click stop all, and all of the services would be stopping. And similarly, if I want to start again the services, it would be started. So this is Ambari 2.0 we have been utilized so far. So that's all about the HTTP deployment 2.2 using Ambari 2.0. And so in the next demo, we would be able to see that how to upgrade from HTTP 2.2 to HTTP 2.3, and we'll be formulated the steps for the manual upgradation from older versions of HTTP to the higher versions of HTTP. So preferably we'll be installing and upgrading it to Ambari, or with the help of Ambari, we'll be upgrading from HTTP 2.2 to HTTP 2.3. So that's all for the demos here. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.